Hey everyone, what's up? This is Dr. Charlie Johnson, physical therapist. Is it possible to relieve your back, butt, or sciatica pain using the power of your mind and visualization as medicine? Now, it might sound a little woo-woo, but this video is perfect for you if you have some type of back, butt, or sciatica issue and you're constantly in a state of fight or flight. Symptoms are shifting around, dancing around, moving around. It seems like nobody can figure out what's going on, and you're constantly chasing the pain. In this video, I'm going to share with you a 3-step visualization process that you can use to start to shift the way that you view your sensations from one of freak out mode to one of safety, one where you may even crack a smile at. All right. My name is Dr. Charlie Johnson. I'm a physical therapist. I have my board specialty in orthopedics. I work with people all around the world with back, butt, and sciatica issues. That's sort of what I do. All right, it's my exclusive specialty. Real quick, if you are wondering the cause of your back, butt, or sciatica issue, check out my Better Than an MRI DIY diagnostic guide for free. You can download it by clicking the link above. All right, so let's get into it. 3-step visualization process that I use with people all around the world, again, to help them shift their mindset, the way that they perceive their pain, which is massively important if you're looking for the best chance of naturally relieving them. All right, I'll start with a nugget that thoughts become things. The brain sort of thinks in pictures, right? Your thoughts and your imagination, we as humans have the faculty of imagination. We can sort of create whatever we want. We can stamp a mental picture of something we want or we don't want. We can choose to view something negatively or positively, right? And so what does it look like, though, to actually change the way that you're viewing the pain that you're experiencing? Well, let's dive into it. All right, so what we want to do with this exercise is we want to focus on not changing the symptoms or the sensations or the pain or whatever you're dealing with. We want to focus on changing your reaction to them. All right, and so again, make the action of doing this the goal, not the outcome. Often easier said than done. All right, so the first step to this creative visualization process is to engage in a position or an activity where your symptoms are tolerable. All right, this is really important. If you engage in a position or activity where your symptoms are too high, then this does not work because there's no way you can visualize yourself right through a lens of safety and security if your symptoms are too yucky. All right, the opposite is also true. If you have no symptoms, then how can you possibly change your reaction to no symptoms? All right, there is no reaction to be had. It's sort of a liken to this idea of like, look, if you wanted to get over your fear of heights, you can't get over your fear of heights by not in some way, shape, or form exposing yourself to heights. It's just not going to work very well. You can tell yourself that you're safe and you're not afraid of heights when you're laying in your room, but you actually have to show up to the cliff. All right, and so this would be a liken to showing up to the cliff. So you have to engage in a position or activity where symptoms are present but totally tolerable. All right, so that's the first step. All right, that might be sitting for you. It might be driving. When you're driving, you get a pain in the back, butt, or leg. It might be walking. It might be dancing. It might be running. I don't know what it is. All right, but pick an activity where symptoms are tolerable. All right, the second step to this process is to paint a picture, observe them, and paint a picture of the symptoms or the sensations that you're experiencing and where they're located. So, you know, are they located in your butt or your back or your leg, or on the right calf or the left calf, or your toes? What toes? Are they sharp? Are they shooting? Are they tingly? Are they burning? Are they throbbing? Are they electric-like? Does it feel like water's running down your leg? What does it feel like? Come up with some descriptor there and just loosely paint a picture of what you are experiencing and where you're experiencing it. All right, so to recap real quick before we get to the key, the third step, which is creative visualization, the act of doing this, right? The first step is to engage in a position activity where symptoms are tolerable, present but tolerable. The second thing is to paint a picture of what you're experiencing, all right? What that feels like, what that looks like, just roughly and briefly. And the third step, this is where the magic happens, creative visualization, all right? And the intent of this, again, is to change your reaction to symptoms, not the symptoms themselves, all right? So we want to train you to view your symptoms as something safe, to give you security despite the presence of symptoms, versus what do most people do as soon as they notice symptoms? They get their x-ray, they get their MRI, they freak out. They picture the burning pain in their butt as a nerve being pinched, as something being compressed, as a disc bulging. That's the image that they stamp on their subconscious mind they choose to get emotionally involved with, and guess what? It freaks them out, right? But remember, because we're humans, we have the faculty of imagination, we have the ability to choose our thoughts. Do we have to choose that thought, or do we not? All right, and again, the brain thinks in pictures, the mind, if you will, and so it doesn't know the difference between a real picture and one that you create with your own mind, right? If you don't believe me, close your eyes, picture a very hairy spider crawling on your nose. Feel it crawling all over the place, right? My guess is that even if you imagine that, not my guess, we know, that you would have a heart rate spike, right? Unless you love spiders, most people don't. You might get some goosebumps. You might notice that your palms get a little sweaty if you think of that long enough, right? And it's completely imagined. It's not quote unquote real, but the brain believes it's real, all right? So it doesn't know the difference between something that's actual, real, physical realm, or something that's imagined, created by the faculty of imagination. All right, so creative visualization. We want to view our symptoms as something that's safe versus threatening. Let me give you an example of what this looks like. All right, 3 or 4 examples. All right, so first example, a gentleman by the name of Joe came to me with chronic pelvic floor pain. He was told that he had pudendal neuralgia. Every time he would sit, he'd picture this nerve being compressed. His pelvic floor would get tighter and tighter. He tried all kinds of different pelvic floor therapies to try to loosen things up, injections, etc. Nothing worked until we started practicing. What we did is this. I said, hey, Joe, you've got symptoms right now as you're sitting there. Step 1, we picked an activity or position which was somewhat unpleasant, but totally tolerable. While he was sitting there, he noticed some symptoms, some burning in his pelvic floor, and the tightness was growing. And I said, hey, usually you're gonna wanna grab the softest seat in the room. You're gonna wanna get a cushion. You're gonna wanna get up or kind of, you know, lift your one cheek so you can reduce the pain. But we're not gonna do that. Are you okay? Are symptoms tolerable? And by the way, I would challenge you to apply this to your own situation. That's the whole intent of this. Learn, you're gonna learn some different ideas here, and then you're gonna apply them. And let me know what you come up with. What type of visualization practice do you come up with? How can you visualize your symptoms through a lens of safety versus threat? Get creative here, all right? There is no right or wrong way to do this, all right? So, as we were sitting there, we picked something where he felt symptoms, but they were totally tolerable, all right? Sitting in a chair, all right? He said, and I said, step number 2, tell me what's happening. Share with me what's going on. He said, well, I got some burning in my pelvic floor. I feel like there's tightness growing, right? Things feel a little constricted. I said, okay, great. What's the opposite of tightness and constriction? Freedom, relaxation, looseness, all right? Things are just kind of flowing. And so I said, where's a place where you like to sit? Right now, if you had to pick anywhere and you could go there, picture your perfect day. He said, I'd go to the beach. Okay, great, you go to the beach. And so let's sit right now, close your eyes, picture yourself sitting on the beach, in a chair, or on the sand, it doesn't really matter, all right? Observe your symptoms for what they are. There's some burning there. They're kind of moving or shifting around in your pelvic region. You notice the tightness growing. And now what I want you to do is I want you to picture that tightness. Here's the creative visualization part. Picture that tightness as, you ever build a sandcastle? Right, as that tension builds, picture sandcastles being built. That tension is the sandcastle. And it's growing ever so slightly, right? 1 block, 2 block. You're getting some more sand, putting it up there. It's building. Do you feel that? And now what I want you to do is as that tension builds, just as quickly as it builds, know that all you have to do is pour a bucket of water over it. All right? And so as the tension was building, he viewed his tension, kind of personified it, if you will, as a sandcastle that was building. And then what happens when you build a big sandcastle? Some kid comes on over, kicks it over, or pours water on it. And what happens when you pour water on the sandcastle? Shh, everything kind of melts, right? It just kind of smooths out. Now you have a nice smooth mound. There's no jagged edges, right? Nothing's building. In fact, you just sort of melted it away, all right? And so this is what he would practice. As the tension in his pelvic floor was building, picture himself sitting there on the beach, observing everything around him. That tension in and of itself was the sandcastle, as weird as that sounds. And then, when it got too much, psh, water right on top of it. Awesome. Picture that sandcastle. By the way, are you afraid of sandcastles? No, I'm not afraid of sandcastles. Okay, great. Notice how it's completely familiar and totally safe to him. He placed himself in a familiar space and began to view his symptoms as something that he's not afraid of, he's not threatened by. Instead, he's building a sandcastle, in this case in his pelvis, right, and pouring water. Now, this is all going on in the mind, right? But again, the mind doesn't know the difference between that which is sort of real, if you will. It's all real, by the way, but actual versus perceived. So pain is a very subjective thing, which means your perception of it plays into the experience of it. Change your perception, change the way you view it, change your sensations, change those things which you feel. All right? So that was Joe. All right, let me know if you have any ideas in the comments. Another person, Monica, chronic back, butt, and leg pain. All right, tried lots of different things, no relief. Let's change our mindset. Let's change the way we view the symptoms that you're experiencing for the better. On a more positive note, I said, Monica, do you have anywhere that you've been that you love? Step one, before we go there, find a place that you can engage in a position or activity, Monica, and you experience symptoms. Can't exactly remember what it was for her. Maybe it was walking, maybe it was sitting, but we get her in that activity, and the symptoms have to be tolerable. Step two, observe what's happening. Like some numbness and tingling and some weird symptoms going up and down the leg. Okay. Instead of going to stenosis, arthritis, nerve being pinched, fight or flight, freak out mode, negative mental imagery, I said, where's some place that you've been in your life that you just love? You're totally at peace. She said, well, first thing I think of is we went scuba diving or snorkeling or something like that in like the Great Barrier Reef, right? And so, coral reef. I said, awesome. I said, and what did you see when you were there? A lot of fish. Were you afraid of those fish? No, I wasn't afraid of those fish. That was awesome. I said, great. So, picture yourself snorkeling right now. You're in your body, right? You are not your body. You are in your body. And you're just swimming around. And you're watching the symptoms of kind of numbness and tingling going up and down your leg as if they're a school fish. And they're going to swim. They're going to kind of congregate around this area of the coral reef if your legs are the coral reef. You're going to notice some intensity increase in your butt. And then they're going to swim and they're going to go down to your feet. You might notice some tingles in your feet, but that's just the fish swimming around. Right? Just the fish nibbling on your toes. The tails kind of hitting you as they pass by. And that's it. Can you just observe the experience of numbness and tingling as if you're just snorkeling, just swimming around watching those fish? And that's it. That's the second example. Symptoms as a school of fish. How weird is that? So we've got symptoms as a sandcastle. There's a beach theme here apparently, a water theme. Water's being poured on it in Joe's case, chronic pelvic floor stuff. Monica, back, butt, sciatica stuff. She's watching her sciatica symptoms, the stuff going down the leg, as a school of fish going in and out of the coral reef. She's visualizing all of this. Mental imagery, creative visualization. Third example, also a water example. All right, Patty, neuropathy-like symptoms. Had some piriformis pain and then it turned into like this numbness and tingling in her toes. She was worried that she had peripheral neuropathy, needed to take B12 and all this different stuff. I said, hey, Patty, I don't really think that's going on. We talked about why, and then we dove into this exercise. Step one, engage in a position or activity where you feel symptoms that are tolerable. Sitting. Charlie, I've got some symptoms right now. They're in my foot, my right foot. And now they're kind of in my left foot too. Okay, great. Are they tolerable? Yep, totally, great. Okay, second thing, can you just observe them? Can you explain to me what's happening? What's happening to them? Well, I got some tingles in my right foot and then it kind of, now a little bit more on my left foot. It feels a little nummy too. Feels like some water's like rushing into my feet, like some water trickling into my feet. Nerve stuff causes all kinds of weird symptoms if you have any type of sciatica or a nerve issue. And I said, great. Just observe them. You don't have to change them. Remember, that's not the goal of this. And I said, you're not afraid of water, right? I know you say you have water kind of rushing through your toes. Feels like somebody's like pouring water down your legs. I said, no, I'm not afraid of water. I love water. I said, great. What I want you to do is I want you to picture yourself in a body of water. Maybe you're sitting on a raft. Maybe you're doing something that you're totally at peace with, right? But now your legs, right? There's two legs, one right leg, one left leg. I said, picture those sort of like waterfalls. So you've got the right leg and you've got the left leg. And now what I want you to do is I just want you to observe the symptoms you're experiencing as if someone were standing on the top of the mountain. Maybe the mountain had two little spigots, right? And there's like an Oompa Loompa, or there's somebody up there, right? And they're turning the spigot one way, and some symptoms are pouring down the left leg. Right? You've got a raging waterfall. There's some whitewater rapids going down the left leg. Observe the tingles and that water-like sensation, right? Picture it. Somebody turned that faucet on. And now, for some random reason, there's that Oompa Loompa up top, twist it the other way, and now symptoms are going down the other leg. It's kind of weird because it totally defies logic. A waterfall that starts and stops, and it goes on that side and then on that side. This is weird, right? But totally neat. I'm picturing all of this. Now for her, symptoms reduced almost immediately after we checked back on what was happening. But again, remember, it doesn't have to happen. They may go away, they may lessen, they may intensify. And if they need to, get up and come back and try another time. It's not really the goal here. The goal is to make the action of practicing viewing the symptoms that you're experiencing through a lens of safety versus danger and threat, which is so easy to do, especially if you've been told you have X, Y, and Z, a certain diagnosis or problem wrong with you, that there's some damage or something broken in your body. We just kind of default to that. All right? But do we have to? And the answer is no, because we're humans and we have the ability to consciously choose that which we want to get emotionally involved with. We can use our faculty of imagination to imprint a picture on our conscious and then subconscious mind, such that the brain cannot distinguish between that which is imagined versus that which is quote unquote real. All right? And again, this isn't to say that your symptoms aren't real. It's just to say that what's the worst case that happens if you try this? You've got nothing to lose. Right? Worst case is you become less fearful and less worried. The best case is your symptoms reduce. Right? So if you're lacking belief in this process, or you find that this won't work for me, it's usually because you're glued to the outcome, trying to force it to work when there's nothing to work. The only thing to work is the process itself, this 3-step framework. All right? And it won't work if symptoms are too high. So if you're engaging in a position or activity where symptoms are too yucky, it just won't work. It's hard to feel safe when symptoms are too hot and bothered. Oh, and by the way, if you're watching this, all right, and you are thinking to yourself, you know what, I just can't buy this. I almost walked into freshly sealed driveway, all right? If you feel like you're walking into a freshly sealed driveway, right, and you're feeling stuck, then lean into logic, right? So the first thing is that a lot of people just can't get on board with this idea, or really struggle to get on board with this idea that the mind could influence their symptoms. But if you think about it, it just makes sense, right? So if you've ever watched a movie and felt sad, if you've ever had a thought about a cat dying or a dog dying or something else that's happened, right, or something real, not just in your mind, and you started to feel sadness and then you started to cry, well, guess what? That's a very physical thing, all right? So if you believe, right, that emotions and feelings can sort of express themselves physically, right, then you could probably get on board with this idea of, hey, the mind might have something to do with how I'm experiencing this pain or these sensations, all right? These are very physical tears when you get sad. These are very physical sensations that you're experiencing. They are very real, right? But you can still use your mind to change the way that you perceive them and view them and ultimately resolve them permanently. All right, so lean into logic. The other thing, if you're a little bit stuck because you just walked through a freshly paved driveway, right, you can ask yourself sort of, what's the alternative? To view yourself as someone who has this disc problem who's never going to heal, and doctors will never be able to figure this out and you have to live with this forever. That's a conscious choice to lean into the negative side, if you will, of your situation versus the positive. It's your choice. The next thing you could ask yourself is, well, what's the worst that happens? What do you have to lose? The answer is nothing. The worst that happens is you practice this concept, you try on this creative visualization, you feel weird doing it at first, but then you actually start to feel a little better, right? Which allows you to buy in with more conviction that this stuff can actually help you. Or you practice it, you make action the goal, not the outcome. You work it, you work it, you work it, and you notice symptoms don't change. In which case you become probably just less fearful, less worried, and less concerned about everything and more at ease, versus in a state of panic? And is there any way that that could not help you and not be of value? I would argue no. And so that's the worst that happens. All right, so you've got nothing to lose. Try it on. Let me know your thoughts below. What are some creative visualizations that you've come up with? As a viewer, as someone who's been stuck in pain and trying to get out of it, what are some ways and or some analogies or ways you could bring your symptoms to life, view them through a lens of safety versus threat? Share them below. I'm sure others will get value out of it as well, all right? And by the way, if you're watching this video, we work with people all around the world with back, butt, and sciatica problems. If you're interested in some help, all right, because using a mind as medicine, right, is only part of the equation, all right? There's movement as medicine, and there's learning to sort of change the habits, the routines, and identify the things you don't know that are keeping you stuck and keeping you in pain, all right? This requires some deep detective work often, all right? And so rather than DIYing it, if you'd like some help doing that, just click the link below. Set up a time to chat with us, all right? After you set up a time to chat, you will follow instructions to submit a detailed case review. Inside this case review, I get all the details that I need to confirm if/how I can help. If I don't feel we can help, we'll just reach out and let you know. I'll actually contact you personally. If we do feel we can help, we will talk about what that plan looks like and get you on a path to relief. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Let me know your thoughts and creative visualizations below in the comments. Thanks.